exactly what 255 is. As you know, 50 years ago, the Supreme Court in Roe versus Wade began a series of precedents that recognized a fundamental right to privacy and a right to abortion. And I'm blanking on the Griswold case. First began that with a case that dealt with the legality of contraception. We also have a long history of legislation and court cases around sterilization. With the Dobbs decision, the fundamental right to abortion has squarely been taken out of federal constitutional protection and put back in the hands of the states. The concurring opinion by Justice Thomas suggests that the Griswold case could meet the same fate. And again, who knows, we have continued to have legislation dealing with whether or not someone could be sterilized with or without their spouse's permission. And while the laws in Virginia right now are consistent with the federal legal precedents, we want to make sure that since we no longer have a federal right to reproductive freedom, that we have one in the state constitution. And so that's what this amendment will do. And then I will ask my co-chief patron, Senator Boysko, to say some words.
Senator Boysko.
Thank you for the time. As you know, we have a big group who is here with us today because this matters to the majority of Virginians. Over 70% of Virginians believe that a person should be able to make decisions for themselves about their reproductive decisions and keep legislators out of that. We also want to make sure that our healthcare providers are protected so that they can give us the best healthcare possible. Many people have spoken on this. I know, as I said, we have a huge crowd here because this is something that is so important to the men and women of Virginia, and we're looking forward to this debate and discussion.
And Ms. Chair, if I can add one more thing, because I know there have been some press releases that mischaracterize this amendment. What this amendment does, and the way that it is written, is take the federal right that was outlined in Roe versus Wade and its legal progeny and put that in the code. So if there is a compelling state interest and a provision that is narrowly tailored to meet that interest, and there's all kinds of precedent at the federal level of what that means, that is the same as what would happen here in Virginia. We asked legislative services and worked very closely with legislative services to codify the protections of Roe and its progeny in our Constitution, no more, no less.
Griswold too, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, senators. So I'm going to put 5 minutes per side on this, and I know this is a big issue, big deal to a lot of folks. It's pretty late, and we also have a couple more bills we got to get to before it turns into the witching hour. We try not to go past 6 o'clock usually, so I don't want anybody to be upset. We're giving people a total of 5 minutes here, but we don't have a ton of time because of how late we got started today. So those in support, 5 minutes total, okay? So remember, you got a line of people behind you.
Thank you. I'll talk really quick. My name is Debbie Churchman. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Virginia. I'm speaking to you today in support of SJ 255. Reproduction is a normal part of life, and the League believes that everyone should have access to affordable, quality health care, including birth control, and the privacy to make reproductive choices. Such choices should be made by the person considering whether or not to have a child, with guidance from their provider and trusted loved ones. Denying abortion access puts another financial burden largely on the backs of poor women. According to the Guttmacher Institute, 75% of abortion patients are poor or low income. If you make abortion illegal, it will not end abortion, it will end safe, legal abortion. People with privilege will continue to access safe abortions by traveling or moving to states that protect reproductive health care. Those who are very young, who are people of color, who are economically vulnerable, who are transgender, they will be the hardest hit and the most at risk. We urge you to keep abortion safe and legal by voting yes on this proposed amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Lexi White. I'm the Policy Director with Repro Rising Virginia, and I'm also here representing the Virginia Reproductive Equity Alliance. I testify in support of the constitutional amendment for reproductive freedom, SJ 255, because it's an urgent time to enshrine reproductive freedom as a fundamental right in the highest legally binding document of the Commonwealth. In a post-Roe America, Virginia is currently a place where abortion remains legal, but not explicitly protected or even fully accessible. Without explicitly protecting access to abortion health care and all pregnancy-related care in our Constitution, Virginia remains a state where the status of abortion rights and access and reproductive health care more broadly are precarious. In order to secure Virginia as a state that both values and protects freedom to make reproductive decisions, we need a constitutional amendment that establishes the fundamental right to reproductive freedom, including abortion care without interference, establishes the right to make decisions about all matters related to pregnancy without discrimination, protects against the criminalization of pregnancy status and outcomes, and protects against the punishment of providers and those assisting standard reproductive health care. This constitutional amendment does just this. Politicians should never interfere with medical care and providers who use by any means to safeguard a pregnant person's health and future fertility with the consent of the pregnant individual. We need elected leaders to honor reproductive decisions in all their complexity and recognize that pregnancy decision-making and outcomes are medical matters, committing to not subjecting pregnant people and those who assist them with care to criminal or civil sanctions. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, just keep an eye on the timer. We're down to a minute 40.
Mine short. I'm Teresa Kelly. I'm from Powhatan, Virginia. Women like me who had to make a decision years ago would not be allowed to with some of the bills that have been proposed in the Senate and the House. So I ask you please to approve this to go to full committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, I'm Aya Johnson. I'm coming to you from the Richmond Reproductive Freedom Project, which is an abortion fund here in Virginia. I'm an abortion doula and birth doula as well, and also a member of the Virginia Reproductive Equity Alliance. As an abortion funder, we've been funding abortions here in Virginia since 2003. So one of the things I think is really important to consider around the constitutional amendment is the stability that it will offer Virginians, and the stability that physicians will be able to invest in the services that they offer, improve the level of care. Also, that our callers will also have the stability of not caring who is in power this particular legislative season in order to determine what their healthcare options are. And so like Senator McCullum said, because of the history of bodily autonomy legislation that we've had here in Virginia, we owe it to Virginians to right those wrongs and to be a leader in the South.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Kenya Haro Perez, and I'm here on behalf of the Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice. I simply just want to say that we support this bill overwhelmingly. And I just want to leave off with saying that historically marginalized groups like Latinas will benefit most from this, as they have experienced disproportionate access even when we had the option for choice. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Last speaker. Okay, thumbs up. That's your speech. Okay, all the opponents. Let's reset the timer.